My name's Tyler Hayes, 46 years old, born and raised in Illinois. I work construction, long days, hard hat, steel-toe boots, the kind of job that leaves you sore but proud when you drive past something you built. It's not much, but it's honest. That morning started like any other. Cold wind off the river, the smell of concrete, dust, and diesel. We were finishing a gym addition over on Franklin Street, running a bit behind schedule. I was up on the third level of scaffolding, nearly 8 meters off the ground, checking a loose bracket before lunch. Then the plank gave out. I remember a split second of weightlessness, then the sound, that hollow, airless thud when your body hits something harder than it's built for. After that, nothing. When I woke up, everything was white. Lights, sheets, walls. A machine beeped somewhere to my left, keeping rhythm with the only proof I had that I was still here. The doctor said I'd fallen almost 8 meters. 2 ribs broken, a punctured lung, 1 shoulder shattered. He said, "You survived a fall that should have killed you." I didn't feel lucky, just tired. My wife, Emily, sat in a chair beside my bed. Her eyes were red from crying, but she smiled when she saw I was awake. "You scared me half to death," she whispered, squeezing my hand. Everyone said I was lucky to have her, and for a while, I believed them. It was around 1400 hours when she said she'd grab a coffee from the lobby. I told her I was fine. She kissed my hand and walked out. A few minutes later, a nurse I hadn't seen before came in. Young, quiet, dark circles under her eyes from too many shifts. Her badge read M. Torres. She checked the monitors, adjusted my 4, then leaned closer than usual. "Mr. Hayes," she said softly, "I need to give you something. But please, read it when you're alone." She slid a folded note into my palm and left without another word. For a moment, I just stared at it, half thinking the meds were making me see things. But when I unfolded the paper, the words were real enough to stop my breath. "Sir, your wife asked if we could turn off your life support yesterday." My throat went dry. I read it again, slower this time, tracing each letter with my eyes. Emily, the woman who'd been crying beside me, holding my hand, promising everything would be okay, had asked if they could stop trying to keep me alive. When she came back with 2 coffees and that same gentle smile, I hid the note under my blanket. She asked, "How are you feeling?" "Better," I said, even though every word felt like glass. She sat beside me again, sipping her coffee like nothing had changed. But everything had. I watched her that afternoon the way a man watches a stranger who somehow knows where he lives. The hours after that note dragged like wet cement. Every beep from the monitor seemed to count down something I didn't understand yet. Emily sat by the bed scrolling through her phone, reading messages, nodding to herself like she was managing a schedule no one had told me about. Every few minutes she'd look up, smile, and ask, "Need anything?" I'd shake my head. What I needed was an explanation, and I couldn't ask for it without showing my cards. By evening, I was clear-headed enough to remember details from the accident. I checked that scaffold myself. 3rd level, east corner. It was solid. The only weak plank had been replaced the day before. I'd signed off on it. So how does a brand new plank just give way under 180 pounds? Emily stood to stretch, said she was going to the cafeteria for soup. When the door shut behind her, I pulled the note from under the blanket again. Read it twice. The handwriting looked rushed, letters pressed hard into the paper. Whoever Nurse Torres was, she'd taken a risk slipping it to me. When she came back, I pretended to be asleep. I heard her moving around the room quietly, then whispering into her phone. "No, not yet. He's more alert today." I said I will, but not now. A long pause. "You don't understand. There are forms." Her voice went flat on that last word, forms. Something about it sent a chill straight through my ribs. The next morning, I asked one of the older nurses if Torres was on shift. She shook her head. "Back Sunday." "Why?" "She was good," I said. "Wanted to thank her." "Yeah," the nurse smiled. "She's got a conscience, that one." A conscience. That confirmed what I already suspected. The note wasn't a mistake. It was guilt. Around midday, my foreman Mark stopped by. The sight of his hard hat tucked under his arm made me ache to be back on site, sweating instead of lying still. He grinned when he saw me. "Man, you look better than I expected. You scared the hell out of us." Emily smiled politely from her chair, not too close, hands folded in her lap. "He's a tough one," she said. Mark handed me a bag with a sandwich and a note from the crew. Everybody's praying for you. But, something weird's come up. HR's running an investigation about the fall. They said there's talk you skipped safety checks. My stomach tightened. Skipped? That's what they said. Came from the site office, actually. Emily gave them a statement. I turned to her slowly. You did? She met my eyes calm. They asked what I knew. I told them you've been exhausted lately. Maybe you missed something. I didn't miss anything, I said quietly. Mark looked between us, uneasy. I'm sure it's just paperwork. Don't stress it. He left a few minutes later, promising to keep me updated. When the door closed, Emily sighed. You know they had to ask questions. It's protocol. Right, I said. Protocol. She looked at me for a long time. You seem different. Distant. Just tired, I said. But I wasn't tired. I was thinking. If she'd told HR I ignored safety checks, that meant she'd already chosen a version of events. One where the accident was my fault. That story would protect her if anything happened to me. Maybe even justify certain insurance claims. That night, when she finally fell asleep in the chair, I stared at the ceiling until the lights dimmed. I didn't know how deep this went. The lies, the paperwork, the reason she'd wanted that machine turned off. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. The woman sitting beside me had stopped being my wife the moment she started planning for a life without me. And before I left that hospital, I was going to find out who she was really talking to when she whispered, "There are forms." By Saturday morning the pain had dulled, but the questions hadn't. Every sound, a cart rolling past the doorway, a nurse's footsteps, the distant ring of a phone, made me think of that note folded beneath my pillow. I couldn't read it anymore. I knew every word by heart. Emily arrived early, coffee in one hand, paperwork in the other. "Discharge forms," she said brightly. "The doctor thinks you'll be ready by Monday if things stay stable." She set the folder on the tray table beside my bed. I saw hospital logos, signatures, insurance seals, nothing unusual. Then I noticed another document underneath, half folded. It wasn't hospital paperwork. It was from State Mutual Life Insurance. Emily noticed my eyes on it and smiled too quickly. "Just renewal stuff," she said, tucking it back into the folder. "I've been meaning to update the policy." That one sentence told me everything I needed to know. She was preparing for both outcomes, recovery or burial. When she went downstairs to make a call, I pulled the folder closer. The life insurance form wasn't renewal paperwork. It was a claim form, already dated for the day after my accident. My name filled the first line. Beneficiary, Emily Hayes. Estimated payout, $480,000. I folded it back exactly how she'd left it. My hands were shaking. When she returned, I pretended nothing had happened. "Coffee smells good," I said. "What did you get?" "Vanilla latte," she said, smiling. "You want a sip?" "Not yet," I said, still queasy. That afternoon, I asked the charge nurse for Torres again. She was due back the next morning. I told her I wanted to thank her for saving my life. But inside, I was planning something different, a conversation. By evening, I felt steady enough to get out of bed with help. Emily stepped out to talk with the doctor, and a nurse helped me into the hallway for a few minutes of walking. The corridor was quiet, pale blue lights spilling from doorways. Down the hall, I saw two orderlies laughing softly. Then I noticed a stack of uncollected patient files on the counter. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. Right on top was mine. On the second page, under next of kin contacted, I saw a signature. E. Hayes, spouse. Below it, decision requested regarding withdrawal of life-sustaining treatment. Pending approval. My chest tightened. That note had been real. She hadn't just asked out of curiosity. She'd requested it. When I got back to bed, Emily was waiting, smiling again. "You're doing great," she said. "Soon you'll be home." I nodded, too tired to answer. She reached for my hand. "You know I'd never let anything happen to you, right?" Her fingers were warm, steady, convincing. But behind her smile, I saw the same calm face that probably looked at a nurse yesterday and asked, how long would he last without the machines? And I realized something I hadn't before. Emily wasn't acting out of panic or grief. She was executing a plan. Sunday morning came gray and quiet. The sky outside my window looked like wet concrete. Emily was gone early, said she had to run home to handle some bills. The truth was, I didn't care where she went. What mattered was that Nurse Torres was finally back on shift. I caught sight of her just after breakfast, pushing a vitals cart down the hall. When she reached my door, I waited until she shut it behind her. You left me a note, I said quietly. Her eyes flicked to the hallway, then back to me. You read it. Every word. She exhaled through her nose, guilt written all over her face. I shouldn't have done that. It was against protocol, but I couldn't watch it happen. What exactly did she say? I asked. My voice was steady, colder than I meant it to be. She asked if it was possible to stop treatment, Torres whispered. Said you wouldn't want to live on machines. She wanted to know how long it would take if they disconnected life support. I felt my pulse thudding in my throat. And she said that while I was unconscious? Torres nodded. You were on the ventilator. She thought you couldn't make it. She hesitated. She cried, but it didn't seem like grief. More like frustration. Frustration. The word burned. Why tell me? I asked. Because this isn't the first time I've seen families try something like that, she said softly. But you weren't dying. You were healing. It didn't feel right. I nodded slowly. You did the right thing. She pressed her lips together, then added, Be careful, Mr. Hayes. She knows too much about hospital policy for a visitor. She asked all the right questions, how the forms work, who signs off, who reviews insurance documentation. I thanked her and promised to keep quiet. When Emily returned later that day, she acted surprised to see me sitting upright in the chair beside the bed. You're supposed to rest, she said, but her smile looked stiff, rehearsed. Wanted to see the view, I said. She sat beside me, unwrapping a sandwich from the cafe. You should eat. Not hungry, I replied. What were you handling at home? Just mail and bills, she said. Why? Curious. You were gone a while. Her jaw tightened for a moment. You think I'm lying? I met her eyes. No, just asking. She looked down at her coffee cup, tapping her thumb against the lid. You used to trust me. I used to have reason to. For the first time since the accident, she didn't answer. Just stared out the window at the gray sky. The silence stretched long enough for the monitor beside my bed to start beeping again. Later, when she went to speak with the doctor, I called the nurse's station and asked for Torres again. She came in, uneasy. Do me a favor, I said. If my wife asks about my condition again, anything about treatment options or paperwork, could you let me know? Torres hesitated. That could get me in trouble. I'll make sure it doesn't, I said quietly. Please. She nodded once, reluctantly. All right. When the door closed behind her, I looked out the window and saw Emily down below in the parking lot, phone pressed to her ear, pacing beside her car. She looked like a woman giving instructions. And it hit me then. Whatever she was planning, it wasn't finished yet. By Monday morning, I was walking short laps around the ward with a cane. The doctor said if I kept improving, I could go home within 48 hours. I smiled, thanked him, and thought, home is exactly where she wants me. Emily came in later carrying fresh clothes, and that same tin folder she never let out of sight. You'll be discharged soon, she said cheerfully. I'll drive you home myself. Something in her tone told me not to argue. When she went to the nurse's station to ask about the release time, I opened the folder again. Beneath the hospital forms and receipts were more insurance papers. 2 of them marked beneficiary confirmation. Both bore her signature and mine. Only problem was, I didn't remember signing a single one. There was also a letter from our bank's life insurance department, stamped 3 days after my fall. It confirmed claim initiation under review pending medical certification of death. Death, not injury. Death. I heard her footsteps in the hall and shoved everything back just as she came in. You all right? She asked. Yeah, just restless. You'll be out soon. She smiled, reached to touch my shoulder, the injured one. I flinched without meaning to. That night, I waited until she dozed off in the chair. Her phone was charging on the table beside her. Locked, of course, but she had used the same 4-digit code for years, our old house number. I tried it. The screen opened. Her messages told me everything. At the top, David Shaw. David, once the doctor signs, they'll issue the payout within 2 weeks. Emily, he's being released tomorrow. I thought it would take longer. David, then you handle it before he changes the beneficiary. You know what to do. I scrolled further. Pictures of dinner receipts, hotel rooms. Their conversations stretched back months. One message made my stomach turn. Emily, he still trusts me. After the fall, he called me his miracle. David, keep it that way until we're done. I turned the phone off and set it back exactly as I'd found it. My hands were shaking. She wasn't just planning to cash in on me. She was doing it with someone I'd hired. David Shaw, The safety inspector who'd signed off on that same scaffolding the morning I fell. When I lay back down, my body trembled with something that wasn't pain anymore. It was focus. The next day, they'd discharge me. Emily would take me home. David would be waiting somewhere with whatever plan they hadn't finished yet. But they'd both made a mistake. They thought I was still the same trusting man who fell. They didn't know I was already standing up again, one quiet step at a time, and I was coming for the truth. They discharged me Tuesday afternoon. I signed the forms with my left hand, the good one, while Emily hovered nearby like a nurse on duty. She'd even packed my clothes neatly, folded just the way she used to when we still shared a life that felt real. The ride home was quiet. Wind against the windows, the hum of tires on asphalt, the smell of her perfume. Faint, familiar, almost cruel. She kept both hands on the wheel, eyes on the road. No music, no small talk. Just that brittle silence that fills a car when two people are pretending everything's fine. When we turned into our street, I saw that the porch light was already on. It was only 16:30. Emily never left lights on during the day. Expecting company? I asked. She smiled without looking at me. Just thought it'd be nice to come home to some light. Inside, everything looked untouched. The mail stacked neatly, my boots lined by the door, dinner prepped on the counter. Too neat. Like a staged photograph. She guided me to the couch, fussed with my pillows. You rest here. I'll heat up the soup. I nodded, watching her move through the kitchen like nothing in the world had changed. While she was busy, I checked the mail on the coffee table. A white envelope stood out, State Mutual Insurance, addressed to Emily Hayes. I slipped it open under the blanket. Inside was a letter confirming that a claim adjustment review was still pending until the patient's final medical status was verified. The word final hit hard. When she came back, I had the letter folded under my leg. She handed me soup and sat opposite, too far away to be affectionate, too close to be casual. I called your supervisor, she said lightly. Told them you'll need at least a month off. Nice of you, I said. David dropped off some of your site files this morning. I kept my face still. David Shaw. Yes, he's been helpful through this whole thing. Her tone softened, a little too much. He felt awful about what happened. I nodded slowly. Yeah, I bet he did. That night, after she went to bed, I hobbled to my workshop behind the house. Dust everywhere, the air sharp with old oil. My phone was still where I'd left it before the accident, on the shelf above the tool bench, battery long dead. I charged it, powered it up, and found messages from Mark. Call me when you can. Something's wrong with that plank. My pulse jumped. I texted him right away. He replied within seconds. You need to see this in person. Not safe to talk over the phone. We agreed to meet the next morning at 8 o'clock at the yard. When I went back inside, Emily was sitting up in bed reading, calm as ever. She looked up and smiled. Couldn't sleep? Just checking messages, I said. She closed her book. You know, Tyler, we've been through a lot. Maybe this is our second chance. I smiled faintly. Yeah, I said. Maybe it is. But as I turned off the light, I caught her reflection in the mirror. Not love, not guilt, just calculation. And for the first time since the fall, I understood exactly how I'd landed there. Tomorrow, I'd have proof. Morning came slow and cold. Emily was already dressed, purse over her shoulder, coffee mug in hand. You sure you're up for going out? She asked when she saw me sitting on the edge of the bed, lacing my boots. I need to see Mark, I said. He's got paperwork from the site. Said it's important. She smiled faintly. Don't overdo it. Doctor said you're still fragile. Yeah, I said. I remember. The drive to the yard felt different now. Same streets, same radio hum, but my mind was sharper. Focused. I wasn't just visiting a friend. I was following a trail. Mark was waiting near the equipment shed, hands jammed into his jacket pockets. You look like hell, he said. Feels about right, I replied. What did you find? He led me to the bench where a broken plank rested. The edge wasn't splintered. It was clean, deliberate. That's the one from your fall, Mark said quietly. I had the guys pull it from the pile. Look here. He ran his finger along a narrow groove packed with dried filler. Somebody pre-cut it. The filler hid the crack. Looked solid until pressure hit the middle. I stared at it. My ribs ached, but not from injury this time. Who had access? Just me, Shaw, and whoever brought lunch that day. Emily, I said. Mark gave a slow nod. Yeah. She stopped by the morning before it happened. Said she wanted to surprise you. He handed me his phone. On the screen was a photo of the inspection sheet from that same day. David Shaw's signature at the bottom, timestamped 10 minutes before my fall. Next to it, a second entry written later. E. Hayes, witness. I felt the room tilt. She signed it. She did. I didn't notice until last night when I checked the records. My voice came out low, steady. Mark, keep that plank and the log in a safe place. If anything happens to me, you go straight to the police. He frowned. You think she... I know what I think. When I got home, Emily's car was in the driveway. She was on the porch, talking quietly on her phone. I stayed in the truck with the window cracked, just enough to hear her voice carried by the wind. I told you, he's meeting people. I don't know what he's seen, she said. Pause. Yes, I'll handle it tonight. She ended the call, glanced around, then went inside. I sat there another minute, pulse steady, mind clear. I finally knew everything I needed to. The scaffold didn't fail. Someone did. And by tonight, she was going to hear the truth from the one man she thought would never see it coming. The clock hit 1800 hours, the time I'd heard her whisper on the phone. Emily was in the kitchen stirring soup, humming softly. I sat on the couch, one hand wrapped around the cane, the other gripping my phone. I'd set it to record, just in case. She called out, dinner in 10, like we were any married couple living an ordinary Tuesday. But my pulse was steady, my breathing measured. I wasn't a patient anymore. I was the man who had fallen and gotten back up. A knock at the front door broke the silence. She froze mid-step, then forced a smile. That must be David. He brought the warranty paperwork for the site insurance. I stayed seated. You should let him in. She hesitated, then opened the door. David Shaw stood there in a windbreaker, trying too hard to look casual. His eyes darted to me, then back to her. Didn't know he was home, he muttered. Surprise, I said, my voice calm. You two having a meeting? Emily's hand tightened on the doorknob. David just came by to drop something off. Then drop it, I said, rising slowly. The cane's rubber tip thumped against the floor. I think I deserve to hear what's been going on since my accident. David looked cornered. This isn't what you think. Then explain it, I said. Explain why the plank I fell through was sliced halfway across. Why both your names are on the inspection log. Why there's a $500,000 policy with my signature that I never signed. Emily turned pale. Tyler. Quiet. My tone cut the air clean. You almost got it, didn't you? You just needed a doctor to sign the death certificate. David's voice cracked. She said you were never going to make it. That it would be painless. Painless. I took one step closer. You were supposed to make sure the cut looked like an accident, and she'd handle the rest. That about right? He looked at her, betrayed. You told me he'd be gone. Stop talking, she snapped. But it was too late. My phone recorded every word. I set it on the table. This conversation's been live since the moment he knocked. Emily's eyes widened. You? Yeah, I said. You married a man who builds things for a living. I know how to make things solid, and I know when something's ready to collapse. David backed toward the door, panic setting in. I didn't stop him. He bolted outside, leaving her standing there with tears forming that looked more practiced than real. She whispered, I didn't mean for it to go that far. I looked at her for a long time. You signed a paper to kill me, Emily. That's as far as it gets. I dialed Mark. You can call the police now. By the time they arrived, she was sitting on the edge of the couch, hands shaking, mumbling half-answers to questions that didn't need them. When it was over, I stood on the porch, breathing cold air. The house behind me was quiet, hollow. Torres' note had saved my life, but the truth had given me something else, peace. Some people think justice is loud, shouting, fighting, courtroom speeches. It's not. It's quiet. It's a man standing under his own roof, knowing the lies can't touch him anymore. I looked down the street, the same way I had the morning before the fall, and realized I didn't need revenge. I already had something better. I was still alive, and they had to live with that. If you like this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts below. Haven't subscribed yet? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you won't miss the next one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next story.